One of our featured playoff games this week is takes us to Class 2A, and we've got an intriguing matchup with the Cokeville Panthers going across the state to take on the third-ranked Torrington Trailblazers, visiting with Cokeville coach Marty Linford. And, Coach, thanks for taking a few minutes. And I know the regular season last week didn't wrap up the way you wanted it to, because I know you'd rather be playing at home than making this trip across the state. But I guess, what have you seen down the stretch from your team? Let's kind of start there and how you're playing going into the playoffs.
We had a great game against Thermopolis, and actually we played a very good game against Lyman. If you watched that game, it was one whale of a dogfight. There was it might have been the hardest hitting game I've been involved in the last 10 years. Those kids were smacking each other, and we just didn't pull it out when we wanted to pull it out, but we'll go give Torrington a battle and see how that goes.
Not your guys' first trip here recently to Torrington. I think it was just a few years ago that you guys went across the state, but how is that? How do you go about kind of breaking up a long trip like that? Because I think you guys have the farthest travel mileage wise of anybody in the state in the first round.
That's a good question. We do try to break it up. We're going to leave this morning, and we'll travel to Laramie and then do some things there. We'll practice in Laramie this afternoon, do some things this evening, and then get up in the morning and have a campus tour at the University of Wyoming, and then travel on to Torrington, then come back to Laramie and spend the night again and take off early in the morning.
Well, talk a little bit about Torrington. What do you see when you see the Blazers on film?
And the Blazers, they're good, athletic, they're big, they're well balanced, they throw the ball well, they run the ball well. They haven't played a team like us. We're just a little bit different style, and we're going to run the ball at them and see what we can do.
Talk about, the contrast in styles. Obviously, I know they like to run the ball, but in the last few years, I know Coach Stienmetz really incorporates the pass. How do you guys deal with that? I know you don't always see the most wide open passing games on the western side of the state. Maybe Thermopolis comes to mind a couple of weeks ago. Is that something that you kind of compare them to a little bit?
Yeah, I would compare them to Thermopolis and Mountain View in the way that they throw the ball around. But they do run the ball very well. It's not going to be line up with two tight ends like us and Lyman did and try to smash it at each other. But we play the pass very well, and so we should have a good game.
What else do you see as kind of key matchups in a contest like this? When I think, Coach, you guys are very evenly matched.
Turnovers are going to be huge. We've been very good all year long about causing more turnovers than giving up the ball, and I think that's going to be one of the big keys of the ball game. And then when we have an opportunity to make big plays, we've got to capitalize on those opportunities and make them, and then shut down their big plays.
How nice is it to have a style or of play that kind of travels well? Because, sometimes if you throw the ball too much, you never know what the wind's going to be, the cold elements. You guys really like to ground and pound. How nice is it to have that kind of consistent approach that will kind of carry forward no matter where you're playing?
That is very, very nice. I remember it was about 10 years ago we played in the state game. It was 5 below zero when the game started. The wind was blowing 40 miles an hour, so it was -25, and we threw one pass all game, and that's all we needed to throw. I don't even think we completed it.
Well, what have you been emphasizing this week with your squad?
Every week we emphasize the process of us getting better. We just have to get better every week. Watch the film from the week before, see where our weaknesses were, see what we needed to do to improve, and then work on those things, and then have a good, solid game plan for Torrington, and the chips will fall where the chips are going to fall.
Coach, thanks so much for the time. Wish you best of luck, safe travels, and have fun in Torrington Friday night.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate you guys.
We continue the conversation talking about one of our featured playoff game matchups here, and it takes us to Class 2A, and we've got Cokeville at third-ranked Torrington. It is a 2-3 matchup, with Torrington being the 2 from the east, Cokeville the 3 from the west, and visiting with Russell Stienmetz, head coach of the Torrington Trailblazers. And, Coach, it's been a couple months since I talked with you on my preseason tour, and you knew and told me back then that you were going to have maybe a bumpy start because of some of the competition, but you guys have come on down the stretch here. What changed from the start to how you guys rolled down the stretch in conference play this year?
I think one, just meshing together better, and then just coming together as I've said it, unity. Like, we've got to build that unity and coming together as one unit. And we're throwing a bunch of different kids in there on special teams and then offense and defense. And so just really coming together, meshing together pretty well. And, you know, a bunch of unselfish players that they're fine just being a blocker, you know, for the guy running the ball, or taking on a lead block so somebody else can get the tackle, or just taking on the linemen up front so that the backers can get to the ball. So just a lot of unselfish players, and just excited to see what they can do.
Now you're done with the regular season, ready for the postseason. Does it change in your mind? Maybe not your approach, but does something change this time of year? Do you kind of get that sense?
You know, we talk about how records mean absolutely nothing. I mean, we are 0-0 right now, and got to go from there and just build off of that. Anything that happened in the past is done, but what we can control is what happens Friday night at 6.
You guys know you're going to get a challenge from Cokeville. They always seem to come ready to play no matter how far the distance. And this one, you get at your place. So I know you're happy to be at home instead of traveling across the state. What do you see when you see Coach Linford's squad?
Yeah. You know, no matter who they're going against, they're prepared on both sides of the ball, prepared on special teams. He does a great job preparing those kids and getting those kids to play hard. I mean, we've faced some Cokeville teams in the past, and it didn't matter. I mean, what records were in season or anything like that. I mean, that program just knows how to win, and they get it done.
Yeah. Any particular things stand out about the Panthers this year from your perspective, watching them on film?
You know, I would say like the yards after contact by their runners, whether once they catch it or for the most part when they run it. But those kids, you know, the backs, I mean, just the yards after contact, and then the blockers on the line, the blockers at the point of contact. I mean, their feet just drive, and they get those extra yards when they need to.
First time this season that elements might play a factor, whether it's cold or wind or snow or a mix of rain and snow. How do you guys handle that?
You know, when we went to Upton Sundance a couple of weeks ago, we didn't have the best weather there, and you know, we got out of that game doing all right. So, you know, we've had one game where the weather was not so great, and we had the sideline jackets for the sideline kids, and they were grateful that we had those that game. But you know, but the players never once, I mean, said anything about the weather.
Yeah. Does that kind of creep in your mind in terms of maybe important keys for something like this, you know, ball security, things like that? How much of a role does that play, not only week to week, but especially in maybe a colder weather ball game?
Yeah. I mean, we try to talk ball security every week. I mean, doesn't matter if it's 60 and sunny or whatever it is. So we just really try to preach ball security and, you know, control what you can control.
What else are you emphasizing this week with your team as you focus in on yourself, not asking for the game plan, but to kind of take care of business and trying to survive in advance on Friday?
Yeah. You know, take care. I mean, for sure, ball security. And then when you do have an opportunity, you got to capitalize on that.
Russell, thanks so much for the time. Wish you best luck at home Friday night against the Panthers.
All right. Thank you, guys.